Dan and Corey here, welcoming you in to Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another rousing rendition of Libservative, intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. I'm fired up today, but before we get into why that's the case, he as always is Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
We've got Bell.
Tried to get my microphone to stay where it's supposed to be.
And we got Bell, the Bodysnatcher, behind the scenes. I think Bell's gonna have an easy day today. Corey and I decided to have some fun. We're going to cover a couple of basic topics, but before we do, I got to tell you, I just read some news that I haven't been able to corroborate just yet. It's been sent over by a friend of mine via Matt Adams on Twitter, which is that Jon Rahm, the number one golfer in the world, was about to leave for the LIV Tour. And if you've been living under a rock, LIV and the PGA have officially merged, basically making it so that effectively the Saudis now own the PGA.
Well, from what I've heard, isn't it just one person on the board from LIV?
The number one, hold on, I got it here. The number one investor in this merger, I think I sent it to you guys. It's here somewhere. The PIF is the main investor in the merger. That's going to change. There will be more, but as of right now, effectively, the Saudis effectively own the PGA Tour. After all that grandstanding that I and all of these PGA players made about fucking blood money and the LIV Tour, all those guys that left for the tour to take the LIV Tour to take the blood money are now basically
with everyone else,
getting their cake and eating it too. And I was sitting here trying to wonder over the last couple of days since this news broke, or it's actually really since yesterday that this news broke that the PGA and LIV Golf were merging. I was like, why in the fuck would the PGA not stick to their principles? Well, it turns out they don't have any principles. They went ahead and let the money of LIV scare them to the point where they decided to merge. And the sports washing by the Saudis is actually working. That's your geopolitics in sports here as we are right now. And it turns out, because I was thinking, I'm like, why would they do this? I was like, my first thought was there had to have been more big PGA players that were about to jump ship. It's the only thing that made sense to me. And then, sure enough, we have this report coming from Twitter about the possibility that the number one player in the world was about to jump ship and go take the money and play on the LIV Tour. So they came to a deal. It's just bad, man. It's a bad look for my favorite sport. I hate it.
Yeah, he's a little upset.
I really am. Like, this is like, because now I feel like shit. Because if you think I'm not going to tune into the tournament this weekend now, I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to watch the sport that I love. I'm still going to play the sport that I love. I'm still going to perhaps buy tickets to go see the sport that I love at some point. And it really, I don't know. It's just upsetting to me because now I feel like a hypocrite.
Yeah, I had a guy at work actually. He's like, "Oh, so did you hear about LIV and PGA?" And I'm like, Yeah, I fucking heard about it because Dan won't shut up about it. No, that's not what I said, but yeah, it's that's frustrating because like this money that's being thrown into like something, and it's golf, and the PGA's. I mean, it's not America; it's European, right?
No, that's the American Association. There's also the European Tour, which is in association with the PGA Tour.
Okay, and so this isn't even association; they just merged.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, I'm sure it's still going to stay under the PGA label. You know what I mean? I haven't heard anything that's going to change. I don't know
Like-
what's going to happen with the rest of the live tournaments. To be quite frank, I don't really care.
If there was like an association type thing, like with because what's the European version called?
The DP World Tour.
The DP World Tour. So like them two, they coincide.
Oh,
with
I'm
each
sorry. The
other.
DP. Hold on, because I don't watch a whole lot of it. The DP World Tour, I believe, is the association of most of Europe and certain other regions as well. I don't know. I don't really pay too much attention to that, but even though there are some pretty good players on that tour. But yeah, it's always been all under the PGA umbrella. And look, I think the PGA takes a little bit of blame in this. There have been players that have been bitching for years and years and years. The most notably and loudest was fucking Phil Mickelson about the way that money's distributed. So Bell's telling us that the Saudi investment fund has almost 700 billion into, and I believe that's just into the merger. I don't know if that includes players or what that includes, but still, it doesn't really matter what it includes. It's a shit ton of money.
They literally gave them an offer that they could not refuse.
It's gross. I'm gonna feel gross watching this sport now, even though actually I'm gonna be interested to see how I feel, because eventually I'm probably gonna let it kind of slip into the back of my mind.
Human nature.
Just like, because I do love the sport so much, just like people who watch football, which is me, just kind of don't pay attention on Sundays to how much passed around the field.
And TBI is just every time these heads are just clunking together.
Yeah, dance for me, puppets. Dance for me.
Dan, this is the textbook definition of cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm. It's just so shitty.
And behaviors combat, and you let one beat the other.
Because it's like I could just see people coming to me going, "Well, sure, I thought you had principles. I thought you were a principled individual. You thought that Live was all about the blood money." I'm like, okay, well, it was. And you weren't going to watch. It's like, and I didn't. Well, now what? Now what, sir?
I swear to God, if Saudi Arabia gets into the NFL,
they're buying them all up, Corey. Buying them all up with the blood of the Houthi people in Yemen.
Yeah, it sucks. You know, that's the thing too, right? Like they make a bunch of money on oil. That's fine. Everyone's trying to make money on oil. We're talking about a country that literally chops up journalists with bone saws. It's just insane to me that we as Americans, as a collective, will sell our fucking left nut for a couple $100, man. It's just insane that like the way we're in bed with China, knowing what China is and what they do, and the way that PGA and golf is just hopping in bed with Saudi Arabia, for the almighty dollar.
And here's the thing: it is a little bit defensible to me. I mean, I think the PGA could have done more with the payment structure and not having and just like hearing the players out before Live came along, because there were players that were pissed about the structure of the way that winnings were paid out. There were players that were pissed about how many tournaments that were mandatory, just how much golf they were forced to play, because it is a long season. I mean, it goes from February till basically almost October. I mean, it's a long season. They don't have to play every week, but they've always had a lot of mandatory events, and the PGA could have done something to help the players more. And then Liv comes along and says, "Here's a fucking $1 trillion, Dustin Johnson. Why don't you come play with us?"
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they saw the grievances of the players that millions of people watch who aren't getting paid, and they go, "Well, we'll pay you."
Yeah, long before, and like it's just an example of an autocratic nation taking advantage of Western capitalism and essentially beating us at it.
Yeah, so Bell said a new company will be created that will be majority owned by the existing PGA Tour, which is a nonprofit. The new company, however, will operate for profit, and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, which currently owns more than 90% of Liv, will take a large minority stake in the combined entity. The exact stake that PIF will assume in the new company will depend on how much it will invest, an amount expected to be in the billions of dollars. But regulators can still strike down the deal.
And they won't. I don't
No,
believe.
because they're getting a shit ton of money, Dan.
Yeah. It's just it's an autocratic nation kicking the West's ass at capitalism. It's basically just like, to a degree, like the PGA didn't have a chance. They just didn't have a chance. I mean, with all, like, that is so much money.
Because Liv was throwing so much money in it, they made PGA the minors.
Yeah. Well, at least they were trying to. And if they had taken John Rahm away, that would have been a real problem. That would have been a real problem. That would have been legitimately the best player in the world jumping ship.
If those Saudis try to put their hands into the fucking PDGA.
Oh no. Honestly, here's the thing. If the Saudis did buy professional disc golf, they would make it. I guarantee you they would, if they kind of slipped under the radar with it through some sort of like backdoor deal where nobody knew it was them, and all of a sudden it was like they just pumped a shitload of money into this sport, and all of a sudden like all the courses are completely immaculate. And like,
yeah, because you so
they would blow it up. They would blow the sport up.
Before we get into our next little thing real quick, Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. Back to disc golf.
Oh, God.
You saw this weekend, based on where we went, for our first crack at investigative journalism.
If that's what you want to call it.
Which was milk toast at best. Yeah. I mean, we did our best, but like we didn't have a game plan really going out and stuff. And this is basically a learning experience, an exploratory expedition into all things investigative journalism.
That's what it was.
And but you saw the potential for disc golf at these different courses, like the one at Territorial Brewing Company. And like if it was like maintained and done right, like there's like serious stuff that can be done with it. So you're saying the Saudis are gonna come and do that?
Yes. Corey's all for it.
I'm not for it. No, I don't want that blood money.
So we did want to announce that we're putting together a small project at the moment with regards to our coverage of Graphic Packaging and their alleged poisoning of the city of Kalamazoo. We conducted a couple of interviews with Redditor Scott and also the lead activist, or at least she calls herself the lead activist.
Based on what she's doing, yeah.
It sounds like she probably is. I can't imagine there being a more passionate activist against Graphic Packaging. And these are two interviews that we conducted that we plan to release in separate episodes coming forward. And then Corey and I and Belle.
We also have a third that's still like we're not we need to corroborate, I think, with our first two interviewers.
Yeah, pending.
I think that's what makes our show unique, is like we're really open with a lot of this stuff with our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And like we still have to corroborate what the third interview said, because there's a man named Brian. We met him at 2 a.m.
Yeah, so we did take the expedition out to Kalamazoo this weekend. We were there for about 36 hours. And really the point was to just kind of A, get a view of the plant, B, we've heard and seen various reports about acute symptoms taking place for just being there for a short time. We wanted to kind of see if we had those effects happen to us, with us being, pretty healthy men in our early and mid 30s. I can say I didn't really experience much.
Yeah, it was very acute.
Other than maybe some eye burn, but I also have pretty serious hay fever this time of year, so it could easily have been just chalked up to allergies.
That's what's interesting, right? Because like when we were driving by there, how much of it was in my brain and wasn't? Because I feel like when we were driving by there, I felt a little bit of stuff in my nasal cavities, but it was like not necessarily subtle, but it was like, is this my mind? If you remember in the car, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm like forcing this on myself.
Are we trying to find it?
One weird thing though, Dan, that did happen in the car, if you remember. after the second time we drove by the plant, you and I were driving away, heading towards the next disc golf course. And then I said, see, again, I don't know if this is in my head or if this is something that is going on, but I just had a weird, sharp little pain, like in my head, like after driving through there.
Mhm.
And you said, I was thinking the exact same thing
Yeah.
because I just got a weird, sharp pain as well, but I thought it was in my head. And I think that for 100% only anecdotal evidence. I want to be clear, this is just anecdotal evidence that is still up in the air that could be just in our heads. It was just interesting that we both
Yeah. It
felt the
definitely
same symptom, but also kind of were like trying to brush it off. Like
it definitely happened. I mean, if I had to chalk it up to anything, I would just chalk it up to coincidence.
that we were drinking until 3 a.m. with
Yeah.
with Brian, the homeless guy.
It could have easily been a hangover, and that might be our third interview. So we don't want anybody to think that we were like trolling Kalamazoo to find homeless people to interview.
No,
Corey Bell and myself were at our hotel. We were out in the parking lot, minding our own business, drinking beers, and
wait, I wanted him Bell's words. Bell, when you as soon as you saw the homeless guy, what was the first thing you thought?
The first thing I thought of is we're about to talk to this man
Because that's what you say it was.
because this is a very Corey thing to do.
You said this is you're in the hotel. And you're like, that what just happened is some very Corey Walsh shit.
Yeah,
I
we
just
Saw
talked
this
to
guy
a
ducking around in the like kept looking over his shoulder like at the hotel.
it was
He
like
wasn't supposed
it was
to
like
be
1
there.
o'clock in the morning. Like it was not early.
And
And
he
he's
had
like walking around with a bucket and a pole, like he was about to wash some windows. And so like he came up to us. This wasn't like we weren't like
I
trying to
called him
interview
over
homeless
because I
people.
wanted him to look at that map.
Oh yeah,
Corey.
your topographical map.
Corey is a magnet for homeless people. I don't know what it is. And as soon as I
Yeah,
saw this homeless man, I seen Corey just light up, and I knew that we were about to talk to this homeless man.
You
I
could
really,
you could be
honestly,
standing in the middle of the fucking desert and there would be a homeless man that would walk
He's a
up
real
to
man of the people.
yeah, no, in all reality, honestly, in the most genuine way, I really look at people who are homeless as people too, and I try to not treat them in any way differently. And
That's the
I,
most white savior thing you've ever said, Corey Walsh.
yeah, but I'm not a person that's just cracking my window, and then slipping the dollar out where they can't fit their fingers inside. You saw it firsthand. I'm like, yo, come over here. Like, I wish I had more beer. Like, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah.
Threw him a little bit of cash. You know, I'm not saying that to say like I'm just good. I'm just saying like I literally had,
We talked to
homeless people have some of the most fascinating stories.
and we talked to Brian for a while, and he certainly had some fascinating stories.
Yeah, and so yeah, and he had some things to say about graphic packaging. He was talking about the history of Pfizer and an old company that was a pharmaceutical plant called Upjohn's. I don't even want to say some of the things he was saying yet without cooperating with other people because it could just be nothing, but it could be something.
I did a little research into what Upjohn is, and Upjohn was it's the original pharmaceutical company that actually created cortisone and a bunch of stuff like that in a city around Kalamazoo, and then they headquartered in Kalamazoo, and they were building neighborhoods, and they were doing all kinds of stuff, and then Pfizer
Bought them
took
out.
over. And beyond that is the information that Brian gave us, which we will have to corroborate.
Mm-hmm. He said some pretty crazy shit. It sounded very conspiratorial, but hey, we'll take a look. We'll dive in.
Yeah,
Could
we
be
need to
fun.
talk to our couple other people that we interviewed and see if they heard anything about any of that.
I like digging into
Because that was what was interesting, right? Like like one thing I think that I really learned from this whole experience is there's a million different avenues that go in a million different directions of each story that you're working on. We saw people there in Kalamazoo and we asked them and they didn't even really know what we were talking about.
Mhm.
And then you mentioned this stuff to Brian and then he just had a treasure trove of a bunch of stuff that he was just sitting on.
Mhm.
Giving us addresses to houses of people who were allegedly whistleblowers from the 80s
Mhm.
about graphics packaging and Upjohns and stuff like that. stuff that we did not hear from any of our other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he didn't. I mean, now granted, I don't feel like he had a reason to lie, but at the same time, he could have been just saying what we wanted to hear to hope to get a buck or two off of us or something.
And he
like
got
that.
it.
And the weird, yeah, he did. He got a few bucks off of us, but yeah, it was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And when you drive by graphics packaging, it 100% smells like shit.
So caveat to that, we were there for about 36 hours, not enough time for obviously any sort of long-term effects to take place. I don't think any of the three of us experienced any sort of acute symptoms, other than my allergies were on fire when I got home, but that could be anything. They've been bad this year to begin with. But we did get that. We didn't really get the smell of the factory until we were right on top of it. Now, again,
right on
caveat.
top of it and a little bit west of it, because
A little bit west of it, the direction that the wind was blowing, maybe a couple of blocks. But caveat to that is, again, it was a Sunday. It's a skeleton crew. They probably weren't in
there was
like
barely any cars in the parking lot.
Operations or anything like that. And I remember Corey and I talking about like, if this is any worse than this on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when graphic packaging is in full swing, I could definitely see this being a lot worse and spreading a lot further.
Yeah.
We don't know. We weren't there on those days.
We drove on the west side. Do you want to say maybe a quarter of a mile, an eighth of a mile? You could smell.
And it was one of those odd days where the wind was actually blowing from east to west, which was kind of strange. It wasn't blowing from west to east. But yeah,
and then also, so then there's also the whole story of the wastewater plant.
Can't get to it.
No, we couldn't get to it. There was a bridge being worked on in the area, and but when we were at the Spring Valley disc golf course, there was that spot where we got whiffs of the plant and whiffs of like sewage.
Yeah.
Granted, there was a sewer by us.
That'll help.
But I mean, it wasn't like we weren't like standing over going, taking in big whiffs. We were up on this. We were on what was it? Was it the third hole or fourth hole?
Yeah.
And we were walking up this hill, and then I'm like, whoa, guys, did you get a whiff of that? And granted, like our sewers around here don't smell like that.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to mention too is that like there were people riding bikes and like literally right next to the plant.
Jogging.
So like as far as like acute symptoms go, from being exposed to the emissions of graphic packaging, it does seem like younger, healthier people probably aren't going to experience acute symptoms. So I mean, it's just another thing to consider. Just another thing that we noticed as we
no, it was that doesn't make it okay, right? Granted, but like,
no, of course not.
Like the smell, like if you've ever, so for the listeners, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this smell.
It smelled like wet cardboard.
Yeah, like wet cardboard or like wet newspaper. Like if something happened, let's say you had a basement that flooded and it was like mildewy. It smells like wet, pulpy newspaper
that was like lit on fire.
The best way I can describe it is if someone ordered a pizza and then ate the pizza and then put some sort of vegetable inside the pizza box and then let it sit outside in the rain in a garbage can.
Yeah, it's just like a wet newspaper pulpy smell.
It was bad.
Another weird thing, anecdotal evidence, if you guys remember, my farts started to smell. My farts were smelling like the paper plant afterwards, which I don't know why.
You're not supposed to eat the recycled cardboard, Corey.
It was, I don't know. I didn't. I don't think. Did I? I don't know.
You weren't at the post factory. You weren't eating graham crackers in Battle Creek.
Yeah, wasn't that weird too when we drove through Battle Creek? We were talking about that. Like,
it smelled like cereal.
Yeah, the luck of the draw for the industry for the city, right? Like, what industry builds the city up? Battle Creek, still a lower income like neighborhood, and a huge like post. Kellogg's just left there, right?
I can't remember what Kellogg's did, but yeah.
But like their city smelled like Cheerios. Like when
Yeah,
you
I thought
first
it smelled.
open-
I thought it smelled a little bit more like grape nuts, but hey, it smelled like cereal.
Yeah, so it was similar almost to a smell of a brewery when they're making the mash. When
Like
they're
a
roasting
barley
it.
mash. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have that. We'll have that at least 3 parts coming out. But our interview with the activist, our interview with Redditor, quote unquote Scott. That's not his real name. And then Corey and Bella and myself will be doing a third episode to kind of recap those 2 interviews and just kind of, go over the basic situation, because it's interesting that the activist and Redditor Scott I feel like if the 2 of them got together and had a discussion, they would have some very, very serious disagreements, as opposed as with regards to the details of the situation. But at the end of the day, they're both like, yeah, fuck graphic packaging. They both agree on like the fundamental biggest thing here, which is that graphic packaging is definitely polluting Kalamazoo. They might disagree on
they're negligent.
They might negligent. That's a good way to put it. They might disagree on like the severity of the pollution and things like that. But at the end of the day, any pollution really in any region is not a good thing. So it should be an interesting 3-part series. I can't wait to get to work on it, and we'll kind of see where that goes. A little bit of a different project for us here at Libservative.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, Dan, because if you remember when our show originally first planned, like that's almost like what the initial plan for the show was. And then
but we couldn't find it. We couldn't find anybody that was dumb enough to talk to us.
We've gotten some clout. We got some reputation now. We're able to.
So look for that. Our I don't know what we're gonna call it, but our graphic packaging Kalamazoo series. Anyway, we got just a few things we want to touch on before we get into our fun game, State of the Nation polling talk. Of course, first of all, the debt ceiling was suspended until 2025. Surprise, surprise. Are we shocked that this happened? Best part about this for me, I don't know if you have anything to add, but the best part about this for me was that Thomas Massey, who is basically I think probably the biggest deficit hawk in Congress, is like, yeah, I signed it because one of the agreements is that budget deficit reductions would take place to the tune of $1.75 trillion over the next decade. In other words, Thomas Massey looks at this and he goes, there's 455,000 fucking landmines in front of me. Well, at least we can get rid of one and make our chances a little better to get across to the other side. It's just like but it's just so pathetic that our government is so dysfunctional. Our federal government is so dysfunctional to the point where somebody whose like biggest thing is the deficit and the national debt, to where he's like, okay, it's like literally I'll take anything I can get.
Right, because
anything
it's not going the other way.
And like, I'm no Thomas Massey fan, but it's like it just like you could almost see the dejection in his face when he's voting, and it's just like, yay. It's so defeatist. This entire federal government. Meanwhile, we still got people on social media telling us that voting third party is stupid.
Oh, you saw that little interaction?
I did see that. I did see that little interaction. It's like, yeah, okay, because voting for either one of these parties that literally just stick at a stalemate is somehow better. Meanwhile,
your voting third party is throwing away your vote. It's like, okay, well, not throwing away your vote has gotten us where?
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, no. So voting Democrat or voting Republican is also throwing away your vote. The difference when you vote third party is at least you can stick to your principles while you're throwing your vote in the garbage.
It's true.
That's
fact, Jack.
It's fact, Jack. Do you have anything to add about the debt ceiling non-surprise?
No, because remember in the very beginning, I said they're gonna figure it out. That's what I said. Like obviously I want to see us rein in our debt, because it's eventually, when you kick a can down the road eventually has a dead end sign. And if hopefully there's not to have a stable dollar.
Hopefully there's not a cliff at the end of that road.
Oh, and also going back to Kalamazoo, ironically, today air quality in our east side of the mitten.
Yes.
Actually worse.
It's atrocious because the
goddamn Canadians.
Essentially all of Canada is on fire apparently at the moment. So we're getting all the smoke from the new Quebec fires because there's been some pretty nasty droughts to the land
Bella,
to the
if
north.
you can find a couple photos of New York real quick.
Yeah, as of today.
But yeah, it's absolutely insane that what's going on there in New York. Like especially like here I woke up, we had 161 air quality, which I guess is bad. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, the higher the number, the worse it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with particulates. I don't know. I'm not a fucking meteorologist. It has to do with something to do with the particulates in the air. But like all I can see is so like I was actually just reading a I can't remember which publication it came from, but it was on MSN. And it's like the word climate change is in this fucking article 6 goddamn times when they're literally just trying to report the facts on the Canadian fires. And this is the kind of stuff that kind of drives me nuts because, it's why do you have I cannot stand when publications inject climate change into random fucking weather events. It drives me insane. You cannot point to a random weather event and blame it on climate change. They do the same thing with hurricanes. They do the same thing with the California wildfires. And they go, well, when you add it all together, it's because of climate change. Okay, you can make that case based on data. I get that. But you can't just claim that one weather event is the result of climate change.
Well, so just to be the devil's advocate, they're saying a lot of these fires were caused by lightning, and lightning in hot weather is increased and stuff like that. But at the same time, we're also talking about El Nino.
Mm-hmm.
And El Nino, we're getting into a drier
La Nina.
Yeah, is it La Nina and El Nino?
Yeah, get your Spanish right.
And then, so this is what New York looks like currently.
Yeah, at least as of a few hours ago. That's insane.
This is a fire that's 600 miles away from there. I don't know exactly the distance.
That's some Mad Max shit right there.
Right. It looks like a nuclear fallout, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. It's just orange.
Insane. Like, so anecdotal, like a little anecdotal story. My son today, he woke up, runny nose, he had a cough. I woke up. So since we've been going to Kalamazoo, I've been checking the air quality in our city, Kalamazoo, different things like that for comparison and stuff like that. And I woke up and I looked, I'm like 161. I was like, whoa, what the fuck happened? And I'm looking at the map and there's just this giant purple spot up in Ottawa and it's just blowing everything our way. It's clearing up here now. It's not bad. Throughout the day at work, I work in a factory that has a very good air exchange rate. So like I feel fine, But my wife had to stay home with my son and we bought an air purifier. It's going in the living room right now. And then my wife was kind of giving me shit. And she's like, look, we're buying it and it's here now. And then look, now the air quality is getting better. I was like, yeah, but look how fast things can go sideways without even realizing it.
Right.
Like now we just have one. We went and bought 1,000 square foot air purifier.
So give me your devil's advocate on the climate change issue with regards to these fires.
So my devil's advocate is it's Canada. In British Columbia, they had weather that was as hot as Death Valley.
Yeah.
It's just things, you see certain events that happen that don't normally happen.
Well,
and the world is overall getting warmer.
That is just a random weather event. That's really what that is. And the other thing too is Canada actually has a wildfire season that goes technically
from May to October.
Now, is it way worse right now than it has been in a long time? It certainly is. But again, we have an El Nino. We've seen some drought. We've experienced the drought here. I don't know when's the last time it rained here in Detroit. It's been like almost a month, it seems like, since we've seen a drop of rain. And like it's so funny because when I have these conversations with people that are like serious climate advocates, they treat me like I'm a climate change denier. I'm not. You and I have had these conversations. But I do think that
when people use events like this, it's just cloud chasing. It's not necessarily.
When they use random weather events to go, see, it's just like when like people who really are climate change deniers, when it's 35 degrees the second week of October and it snows and they go what happened to climate change?
Yeah.
Same shit. It's
because you could also say, what do you mean climate change? The water levels in California and the the Colorado River or whatever in the basin over there is higher than it's been in decades. What happened to climate change?
It's not even just
things ebb and flow.
It's not even just the random weather events. It's also that like climate change is in like future projections. It's all based on models. Models are remarkably unreliable.
Right.
Because they can be biased. You can miss so many data points that you can put into a model. And it's like, I'm not saying it's not a problem. Right. I'm not saying we shouldn't do more to curtail it. But I also don't like the doomsday bullshit that the climate activists throw our way.
Right. Yeah, because it's
a middle ground.
Like all the data shows that overall the Earth's temperature is rising.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a big problem for us. That is something that we have to deal with. But
how big of a problem?
Someone takes a random weather event and uses that as an example of climate change, I sometimes feel like it's the equivalent of Jesse Smollett faking a racist attack, when all it's doing is hurting the initial cause.
Right. So so what you're saying is that like we know.
Well, we know there are people that are idiots that just like don't think climate change is real.
Right.
But to sensationalize it when everyone is already entrenched in their beliefs, this is only hurting the cause of trying to get to a more sustainable, cleaner environment that we can all live in and not have to deal with things like Kalamazoo on a daily basis.
Well, and get to a place where, because like, yeah, it's one of those political situations where you're never going to convince either side to budge even just 1 minute, right? So like if I go to a climate change, like somebody who is a serious climate advocate, if I go to Greta Thunberg and I say, Greta, look, I see what you've presented. I've seen that you care about the idea that the Earth's temperature is rising. But I can't help but notice that you are convinced of what is going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20.
When we don't know what's
50 years.
Remember?
When people have been saying these things since the 80s, right? And not to mention, is there a possibility that that a rise in the Earth's temperature, while it will certainly have some negative effects on the Earth, okay, we've already established that. Let's just say that Greta, you're right about that. Is there a chance that there could be some like reverse positive effects? Because
we've talked areas,
we've talked about the green, the now the over greening of the Earth, right? Because what do plants breathe?
CO2. They
breathe CO2. I could see life being easier for plants with higher CO2 levels. Then they produce more oxygen. Like I guess at the end of the day,
as long as we don't keep chopping down trees, and I'm not saying that.
Well, that's true. I 100%. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I'm a lot more worried about the amount of trees being chopped down in the fucking Amazon than I am about like how much CO2 my car puts out on a daily basis.
Yeah, we just have to be more environmentally conscious. I feel like that I feel like it's not doomsday. I don't like the sensationalization of the doomsday of it, because what that does is it hurts the cause.
It's something that needs to be considered.
Devil's advocate too, I was just thinking about this, is like big wildfires are becoming more frequent in the last few years. Like look at California, You know, we just had a huge one in Michigan. When's the last time you heard of a huge wildfire in Michigan?
Well, listen,
but again, that's also weather, not climate. It was unseasonably warm here.
I don't mean to like kind of because he was obviously riffing like he always does, but I don't mean to give Donald Trump credit. But talking about the California wildfires,
You just got to rake the forest.
no, yeah, I mean he wasn't wrong. Like the natives used to do that shit. They used
So
to
the
clean up
reason why he's
underbrush.
not wrong is because, yeah, back before we tried to conserve these different places and stuff like that, wildfires did happen. Wildfires are a cleanser.
Yes, they're natural.
It's a part of the actual cycle of forests.
Mm-hmm.
As humans, we like our forests. We like to go walk on the nature trails, so we try to preserve them. But what that does is it creates a large underbrush of dead things and things like that, to where when it actually when a fire does happen, yeah, it creates a tinderbox.
Mm-hmm.
And we also continually move into these areas where these things continually happen, so we try to preserve it to stop them more. So when it does happen, it's just gong show, just full tilt, big ass fire.
Bell's the botanist of the group. Why don't you get in this conversation, buddy? You gotta have something to say.
What do you want me to say?
I don't know. He was asking.
You're the plant guy, man. The situation with the wildfires.
yeah, we're trying to throw this and get
listen. Wildfires occur. Actually, a lot of plants, the only way that they reproduce, for example, the white pine, the only way that it could ever grow is if there's a wildfire that burns the pine cone, which would allow the plant to germinate.
That's the same for the great white or the great the huge ass redwood cedars.
Yep.
That's the only way
sometimes
germinate and create new cedars.
And I mean, really, honestly, if we're not here, these things are happening regardless, because that's just the cycle of nature.
What do you think about the human aspect of the underbrush phenomena? Because you hear stories about native tribes that would strategically go through these wooded areas, and they wouldn't clean up all the underbrush, but they would clean it up in a way because, like, they're not, you know, they know the land, they know how fires start, they know where is it. I guess they basically would set up. It sounds like, and I'm just an idiot, so don't take my word for it, but they would almost like set up strategic burns,
right,
as natives.
Right. So what they would do is they'd clear out certain areas and then make fires they'd make like sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do is they would, you know, gather all the brush from the surrounding areas, throw it in the area so that when they burnt it, that the fire wouldn't spread outside of where they picked up. And it's all controlled. That way they could get their new bushes and their new vegetation and all that, because that's how it grows. Sometimes vegetation becomes so abundant that it just kills itself off. So that's what they did. They just got rid of it.
And I don't mean to get all like spiritual and philosophical on you guys, but like, you know, like as humans, fire is obviously a very detrimental health effect on our day-to-day living. Like,
it's a great tool that if you let get out of hand.
But carbon is a building block of life, to where fire is like the biggest devastator, you know, but it's also the life bringer. And like when you see like, for example, out in Roscommon area, out by the Asalba River and stuff, that you could tell when there's certain areas you drive through, you could tell
people that aren't from Michigan. This is like northern mid Michigan.
There's areas you drive through that you could tell, like there's like twigs, you know, like when I say twigs, I mean like dead trees sticking out of the ground and they're still charred, but the fire happened probably like a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
But in between all of these charred trees is just new growth and new life that within another 100 years, that's going to be a very healthy forest.
And not only that, like
and when people live only 50, 60 years, like they won't even get to see the fruition of it, and they like to preserve it as is. But maybe we're doing more harm than good when it comes to some of these aspects. Now, granted, I don't think that we should just let fires start wherever and kill people and destroy communities and
Well, I mean,
everything
no,
like that.
we do a lot of controlled burns, maybe not enough where, these fires are prevalent, but
But why do we do controlled burns? Because exactly what we're talking about.
exactly what we're talking about right now. And I personally, as a mushroom person, you go to these controlled burn sites a year after, and the mushrooms are crazy.
Oh yeah, morels,
Just
pheasant back, chicken of the
crazy.
woods.
And they're
Yeah.
and they're clean too.
Yes.
No bullshit, because all the bullshit's been burned up.
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
No, it's
Moves me on,
pretty
Mike.
awesome. I mean, it's when you can't do it yourselves and it just happens, it sucks because then you have something like you have going in New York. But when
Yeah,
when
what the
we
fuck?
do it controlled,
We've
it's
been so
great.
focused on building a wall in the southern border. Maybe we should be building one on the north to keep the smoke out.
Keep out those damn commies up north. That's what
Yeah,
we're trying to keep out.
Put sun in
We're
your
going-
like, we got smoke invading from the north. We got the immigrants invading from the south. We don't have secure borders, Dan.
We're gonna build a fan. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, why can't we just take all of our fucking windmills and face them towards Canada? And blow
Oh
all
my
this
God,
shit
though.
outta here?
No, that was brilliant. That's actually something Trump would say. We're going to build a fan. It's going to be the biggest fan. It's going to keep all the smoke out of here.
It'll be huge.
So do you
Huge fan.
remember? This is another Michigan local thing. When the Silverdome was supposed to get demolished,
Yeah, and it just
and
sat
it was
there.
just a flop, and the demolition didn't work, and
And
then
it
there was that Facebook group.
stunk. I lived near it. It stunk.
Did it?
Yes.
So then people made a Facebook group, and it had like 1 million people in it that said, "We're all just gonna point our fans at the Silverdome and blow it over all at the same time." We should make a Facebook group that says, "Let's all put fans on the Canadian border facing north to get all the smoke out of America."
Corey, let's have some fun. This is what we came for. We're already 47 minutes in, but we got some time. We're only halfway through the show.
Sounds
State of the
about right.
Nation. This is something we'll probably do. I don't know how often we'll do it, but we'll do it a multitude
At
of
least
times.
once a year, yeah. Once, maybe twice.
And well, maybe more, because we are coming up on an election in a year and a half. So just kind of see where the nation is. Yeah, let's smoke these polls. So Corey's got a bunch of Corey's got a bunch of polls from Gallup, right? And maybe next time we'll pull from somewhere else. Maybe
Larry says, "Where are the tiki torches?" It's like, have you seen the environment? There's no way we're gonna light tiki torches right now.
This country is a tinderbox, and I mean literally.
God damn it, Larry! Don't you even fucking care about the environment? My brother's name is Larry. I wonder if that's him.
It probably is.
If it is, fuck off. If it isn't, I'm sorry.
Let's talk about these. Let's get into these polls, Corey. I wish I had some fun late game show music to play, because Corey's going to read these polls. And what are you going to do? Are you going to read the demographics, and I'll try and guess what the percentages are for each one?
Yeah, I guess so.
Sure.
Right now, the first poll I got, it was a poll that was conducted about extremism and support for extremist groups in the country. And it's based on military members versus the general populace. And I know I've already read this one to you guys, so this is an example that we'll just use for the first one.
I don't think I remember what the numbers are.
Rand conducted a national survey of almost 1,000 veterans, and it was about, do veterans support, white supremacy in our country? And it was comparing it to the general populace versus veterans. So 7% of veterans, 7% of the regular population of America supports white supremacy. Can you guess? See, I know you guys already know this one though, but can you guess what percent of veterans support white supremacy?
Isn't it like a fraction of a percent?
Yeah, it's like 0.7%, which is actually great. I'm glad to hear that our military is less racist than the regular people, because you're literally putting people of all race, creed, religion together to fight for a common cause. This girl, Ellen Gustafson.
Was that I was gonna say, was that supposed to be like a gotcha thing because like the
I
military
think
and
they
look,
were trying.
yeah, they were trying to get the military for being like white supremacists or something.
Yeah, Ellen Gustafson, who is like the wife of a veteran, summed it up the best. She said, "There's a lot of people in America who are looking at our military and veteran community, as you know, woke because
Mhm.
they're allowing trans people into the military." Which, my personal opinion, I don't give a shit what your pronouns are. I don't give a shit if you're black, white, Muslim, Christian, whatever. If you're willing to sign up to take a bullet for me and my family, then God bless you. But she says, so there's a lot of people in America who are looking at our military and veteran community, as you know, woke. And
Mhm.
then in another media silo, you could easily take away that our military is full of white supremacists. As a military spouse who lives in this community, I know that not to be true. And that really had me thinking because it's kind of funny when you think about it. That's 100% how the media goes. If you watch MSNBC, white supremacy, in the military.
Right.
But then when you hear the right-wing media talk about the military, like, oh, the military is
They're
going
so
woke.
Well, which
They're
is
woke.
it?
Yeah, it's neither. Joke's on you, it's neither.
Yeah, it's so, you know my feelings about the military in general, but like, I've said it once a million times. I don't have a problem with individual people that are in the military that feel like they're doing a noble cause. I know a few, I'm friends with a few vets, and like, I've never gotten like a white supremacy vibe, like a white supremacy vibe out of them. Occasional little bit of homophobia, but it's mostly in jest. I don't know. Is that me? Like,
They're always making fun of the Navy, right?
They're
always making fun of the Navy.
yeah. Same kind of jokes we made in high school, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not surprised to find out that the military, or at least veterans, are not white supremacists. I'm not surprised to find that out.
Okay, so I have another poll. It's America's satisfaction with the state of the nation.
Ooh.
So there's a percentage that's totally satisfied, a percentage that's somewhat dissatisfied, and a percentage that's very dissatisfied.
And this is all demographics?
This is all demographics.
So totally satisfied, somewhat satisfied, and not at all satisfied.
Yes.
I'm going to say.
So should we make a spread? Should we do an over under? Like, what would we do? Like normal. So normal polls, what is it? +1, what is it? +3% for a poll or whatever. Like when it comes to polling for like a presidential candidate.
Yeah, there's like a margin of error. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the margin of error. So should we call that our spread? I guess. No, I mean, I guess that's kind of what I'm going off. Hey, Bright, nice.
I'm just gonna try and guess the numbers.
Okay, that sounds good.
And we'll see how close
we're not Vegas.
So completely satisfied.
Hey, Bill, hop in here. I want you in on this too.
So completely satisfied. I'm gonna say 14%. Somewhat satisfied, I'll say. This probably isn't even going to add up to 100, so I'm just trying to get close. Somewhat satisfied, I'll say 32%, and not at all satisfied, whatever the difference is, like 65%.
And then, Belle, what do you think?
It's gonna be something similar. I mean, nobody's satisfied, not even halfway.
Totally satisfied, 0.
Yeah, that's just. And then not satisfied.
The Price is Right. He's betting $1.
Honest to God, it's 70% of the people not satisfied. 65.
Okay. So we have 23% that is totally satisfied.
All right, I was close.
What did you say, Belle?
0.
All right. Belle, take a drink.
Shoot, all right.
Somewhat satisfied. You said, would you say 32%, Dan?
Yeah, something like that. I should probably write these down.
I would have said like 14%.
Okay, Bell, take a drink. 'Cause it's 28%. And then it's 48% very dissatisfied. So yeah, okay. So if you guys both got paper or a
I got them written down.
yeah,
I'll write them down from going forward. But it's like
48% of the country is very dissatisfied.
very dissatisfied. So, like, what does that tell you? And yet we're gonna sit here in 2024 and have two trash ass choices again.
I don't think
who's
so.
the executive of this nation.
I don't think so. You know that they're running the smear campaign on Joe. And
Washington Post is the one leading the charge.
Yeah, the problem is
yeah, but they got
that's the
nobody.
thing. That's the
They
thing.
got
Like
nobody.
I've brought that up before. That like,
No, they do, but RFK is not one they want because
and that's it.
That's
So
the problem.
So that's what I was gonna say is that like, so I've had this weird conspiracy theory going on in my head that like the Democratic Party and the mainstream media has been like slowly trying to sabotage Joe Biden. You see instances of that.
Well, they
But
know
the
he's
problem
bad for
is-
the brand.
But the problem is they haven't found the replacement yet, because it certainly isn't Kamala Harris. Nobody wants that either.
No, and
People
it's
want
not
that less.
RFK.
And it's definitely not RFK Jr., even though I like RFK Jr., at least so far. I have some issues with him, but yeah, so it's like, well, where's the replacement?
Right.
That's what's strange about it. I don't know. Anyway, on to the next poll.
All right. U.S. support for gay marriage. What percentage do you think it is? Now, remember, there's a huge bunch of
This isn't fair
culture
because
war
you told me.
bullshit around it. That's true. What do you think it is, Dan?
Say that again. I missed it.
The U.S. support for gay marriage.
U.S. support for gay marriage. So what is this all demographics? This is just a percentage, yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's pretty high. I'm gonna go, even though I think it's actually come down for various reasons over the last few years. I'm gonna go 73%.
And then, Belle, you already know it. So, Belle, I guess just say it.
It's 70%.
71%.
Oh, so goddamn close.
Yeah, that was a good guess, man. Okay, well, then how about this? What do you guys think it was in 1996?
High 50s, 58%.
No, I think it was higher.
Do you think
I think
it
it
was
was-
higher?
I think it was mid 70s.
Belle, take a drink. It was 27%.
No shit. No shit.
Larry over here is a secret dictator.
I was noticing that I wasn't gonna say
His
anything.
elections need to be eliminated. I think he's trying to troll. That's funny.
All right, Saddam.
Oh, Lawrence. Environmental protection versus economic growth. What percentage do you think that the people think protection of the environment is worth more over economic growth, and vice versa?
Protection of environment versus economic growth.
So, these people would think that environmental protection is more important.
Supersedes economic growth. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, so obviously anybody who is like left of Rachel Maddow is definitely gonna think that environmental protection. I'm gonna say, guys, this one's tough. 37% would prefer environmental protection over economic growth.
Leaving 63% to be economic growth. Okay, and then you, Belle?
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with Dan because I think a lot more people will say that they're for environmental protection, although they're for economy growth. I'm gonna go ahead and say 44%.
Dan, take a drink.
52%
52% of the country.
Oh.
52% of the people in this poll.
You know what? I should have guessed that it would be closer, because anybody who's center left is going to go for the environment. Anybody who's center right is going to go for the economics. I was hoping that the Gutfeld libertarians were a bigger contingent than they actually are. I guess that was wrong.
The thing is, too,
42% think economic growth, 52% think protection of environment.
so you talk to a lot of people, like older people who are conservative, and that's like a big thing with them is environmental conservation, even though they're the ones that botched it in the first place.
Yeah, because they grew up in the 70s when Cleveland's rivers were catching on fire.
Yeah. Now they realize, so it's just a lot more people than you'd think.
All right, this is a fun game. On to the next one.
Yeah.
All right, seriousness of global warming. This one's for you, Dan.
Ooh, yeah, seriousness.
The percent that thinks it's generally exaggerated, the percent that thinks it's generally correct, and then the percent that think it's generally underestimated.
You said generally exaggerated, generally correct, and generally underestimated?
Yeah.
Generally, wow, this is tough. I'm going to say generally correct is going to be the biggest number here. So I'm going to go, I'll go like 42% on generally correct. Under exaggerated. God, I can't do math on the spot. So under exaggerated, I'm going to go 25%. No. Over exaggerated, I'm going to go 25%. And under exaggerated or under whatever you said, taken not seriously enough, I'm going to go whatever the fucking difference is there. What is that? 36%, whatever that is.
Okay. And what about you, Belle?
I'm going to say 25% of people exaggerate it. 35% of people think it's absolutely correct. And then about 30% of people underestimate it.
Damn. So you guys almost had all the same numbers, but you mixed it up. It's almost exactly like dead nuts.
Is it like 33, 33?
Nope. So no, I mean on your flip-flops of what you guys think. So 39% of the country thinks it's generally exaggerated. 36% thinks it's generally underestimated. And 25% thinks it's generally correct.
So we both thought that the generally correct was going to be the biggest number. I nailed the under-exaggerated at 36%. I don't know who drinks. Maybe we both drink or neither of us drink.
I'll take a drink with you, Dan.
Oh, sure. Here, cheers, buddy.
I'll take a drink with you guys too, because fucking I ain't driving.
I'm almost out of beer.
It's because you keep fucking up these polls.
I've been taking shots this whole time.
Good job.
I know, man.
All right, on to the next. In general, do you feel that the laws covering the sales of firearms should be made more strict, less strict, or kept as they are now?
So more strict, less strict, or kept as they are. Oh man, this one this is just such a contentious issue. So I have to believe that more and less are going to be big numbers, and kept just as they are is going to be small. So I'm going to say more strict is those numbers might even be fucking identical. I'm going to go 40. I'm just going to go 40, 40, 20. So 40 more, 40 less, and 20 kept as they are. Let's just go with round numbers on it.
This guy's been trolling the whole show, but this is the most correct thing he said all night.
100% right. Threatening gun legislation sells the most guns and ammo.
He's right.
I love the banner, by the way. I didn't get to tell you that.
Let's smoke these fools.
So I got 40 more strict, 40 less strict, and 20 want it kept the same.
What about you, Belle?
I think you're gonna be shocked. I think a majority of people want more strict gun laws. So I picked 52% for more strict gun laws, 15% for less strict gun laws, because the libertarian ideal is a very small minority, and that includes myself. And 33% of people want gun laws be as is.
Dan, you need to take probably 2 drinks.
I do.
More strict, 57%.
Jesus.
Wait, you ready? Less strict, 10%. Kept the same, 32%.
That's unbelievable.
Dan nailed that one.
I am so shocked by that because I just thought it was such a contentious issue. Who the fuck is taking these polls? I'm going to go grab a bottle of whiskey. Give me a second.
There you go.
Larry, we're literally just reading Gallup polls right now. This episode this week is kind of weird. We went out to Kalamazoo to see for ourselves a company that's like kind of poisoning the air out there. And so one of the segments we're doing this week is we're just reading Gallup polls, and I'm just getting these guys to guess what the American psyche is.
Oh,
anyway. He said we're inside the box. We're not thinking outside the box right now. We're listening to everyone inside the box.
That's right. That's what polls are.
He sees that Trump. What Trump poster?
This is a fun game.
I know. I just told Bert.
I see that Trump poster. Which one? Who has a Trump poster?
Nobody has a Trump poster.
Nobody has a Trump poster.
Is it this one? This one right here?
It says nah. Rosa Parks. That's Rosa Parks saying no. That's set off one of the most important civil rights.
That's the most gangster shit of all time.
That actually helped this country get to a way, way better situation. And then he's got Beavis. What's it say?
Are you threatening me?
Oh,
Yeah,
it says, "Are you threatening me?" Yeah, sorry. This guy's funny.
I got some Russell's reserved here for the remainder of this competition.
Attaboy. You got your shots. Do you have a gun in your home? What percentage do you think this is?
Ooh.
Well, we know there's more guns than people, but some of those are due to just arsenals and people's fucking sheds. Do you have a gun in your home? I'm gonna say. See, that's going off of the last fucking question. Now
Do you want me to go first?
Myself, yeah, go ahead. I'm guessing myself now.
I'm gonna say 68% of Americans have guns in their homes.
Okay.
I'm gonna go a little lower. I'm gonna say.
I think it's more, to be honest, but
well, it's of people polled, but it's supposed to be a representation of the United States. I'm gonna go a little lower. I'm gonna say 56% have guns in their homes.
Bell, take a drink. It's 45%.
Oh no shit.
Okay, so now I'm gonna do 2 more off of this. What do you think the highest percentage was since the year 1960?
Of people who have guns in their homes?
Yeah, based on that number.
And you said the number was what, 40, 45?
Yeah.
Wait, what year is it right now? Or what year is it you're talking about?
What year is this? What are you, fucking Robin Williams?
Since 1960, what was the highest percentage of people that had guns?
1960.
I'm going to say it was probably higher than 45%.
I'm going to go ahead and say because they signed a Hughes Amendment back in, was it 86? And that was probably the time when people had the most firearms because they had to sign that legislation. I'm going to go ahead and say 57.
That's basically what I said for the last question. I'll go 52. Something close.
Bell, take a drink. It's 51. Now, okay, here we go. What year do you think that was?
think Carter Reagan. 1978. Wait a minute. No. Yes, 1978.
83.
Only because he fucking Price is righted you by 3 years. It was 1994, 51%.
I just drank, so we're good. 1991.
Yeah, weird, right? That's before the Brady bill.
Bush administration.
Oh, that's also before Clinton signed legislation too, right? Didn't he sign legislation?
Yeah, well, he wasn't elected until 92, so yeah.
Because it dipped, I should have asked when do you think the lowest was, but I'm just going to say it. 1998, 34%.
Makes sense.
And then it's been pretty stagnant. 2020, it's funny because 2020 was 42%, and then COVID happened, and now it's up to 45%.
Okay. On to the next one. What do we got?
Views of the healthcare industry.
What is it?
He just said parents subsidize morons. Do you pay your own bills?
No.
No, my wife does.
Yeah. Me, the guy
He doesn't
in
have one.
the Sabbath shirt, I have a kid and I have a wife.
I have two.
I'm living the nuclear family American dream, and I do pay all my own bills.
What was the question?
Views on the healthcare industry. So what are the options?
Very somewhat positive versus very somewhat negative.
Oh.
So there's 4 options.
No, it's basically 2.
Okay.
Positive or negative?
Yeah, positive or negative. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. Dan, I'm glad you're writing these down because I'm not.
I got you.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that around 35% think it's positive, and 65 think it's negative. Because a lot of these conservatives will come talk a big game when they all talk about healthcare for all, but deep down, when somebody actually talks to them about it, they know that our healthcare system is trash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You mean conservatives that defend the
private, like only private insurance,
like privatized healthcare,
like Medicare for all. If you want it, I'm all for it, dude. I don't give a fuck. Everybody,
I'm gonna
taxes.
I think the negative has got to be pretty high too. Bell went 65-35.
I went 35, 65, 35% positive.
That's what I mean. That's what I meant. I'll go 30-70. 30% positive, 70% negative.
You guys are gonna get me wasted.
So what I should have said was, because like I just did the math on this, and there is caveat.
Oh boy.
13% that must think it's just that doesn't have a opinion on it.
Okay.
So it's 47% think that it's negative. 40% say it's very to somewhat positive.
We can both drink on that one. We're pretty close because it's like
I did the math after.
I just can't believe there's that many people who think it's positive.
I'm like fucking 8 shots in, guys.
Well, I mean, because I guess people would think it's positive because of the fact that
you don't have to take a full shot. Just take a little sip. Like it doesn't have to be
down in the bottle.
It doesn't have to be a full fucking shot.
What's the fun in that, Dan?
I don't know, but you're gonna throw up tonight. Anyway, what's the next? We got another one? We got more? How many more we got?
Give me more.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Dan,
you're gonna reason my fucking computer made my audio go back to my internal microphone. I just switched it.
My mouth isn't even big enough for
so we're an hour 13 in. Let's do 5 more.
We're just gonna run through them.
Okay.
All right. In your view, should immigration be kept at its present level, increased or decreased? Present level, increased or decreased?
Present, increased or decreased?
Dude, that's fucking tough.
It is really hard because you have a contingent of immigrants who don't think that we should have more immigration.
Really, really. I mean, that's gonna be close. That's a close one. I'm gonna say a majority of Americans want immigration, but they want it to be regulated. So, regulated more. Not that it's unregulated. I'm gonna go ahead and say 56% of people are pro-immigration, and then 44% of people are kind of at their wits'
There's
end.
3 of them.
Yeah, so do you want it to stay at the present level? Do you want it increased or decreased?
Oh shit. Okay,
So,
hold on.
I'll go first. So I'm gonna say I gotta believe increased is gonna be the smallest number here because it's pretty It's pretty high as is. So I'm going to go staying at the present level, 31%. Decreased 22%. What's the difference there? What is that? I don't know what the difference is there. Whatever the difference is, 27%, something like that. 28%. It's hard when you have to do math.
You say 27% increase?
Yes.
All
Oh, wait,
right,
no,
Bill.
other way around. I'm sorry. 22 increase, 27 decrease. I wrote that backwards.
No, Bell.
I think around 70% of people want it to stay as is. I think a very large majority
high
of people.
number.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people really.
I'm just drinking
Yeah.
ahead of time because you're probably right.
I think a very low majority of people think that immigration should increase, and I think that a very small amount of people should believe that we should decrease population or immigration coming into America. You guys got me too many shots. Fuck. But I'm gonna go 70% believe as is, 13% of people believe we should increase, and then 17% of people believe that we should decrease immigration.
Bell, you gotta take a drink. Present
Just
level,
sip it.
you said it right on the nose, fucking Dan. 31%.
Wow.
Present level. And then for a second, I got excited because when you talked about the increase, it's 27%.
For increase?
But then you flipped it and said decrease.
I almost nailed it perfectly.
Yeah, 38% say decrease.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to drink for that one.
We need to get Bell to bed.
No, I'm good, bro.
Bedtime
good.
Bell.
Ask me more questions.
Honesty and ethics in professions. So this was gonna be tough to actually ask questions, I guess. I guess I'll just pick like 3 out of here, and then the percentage of people who have a very high think that the standard of honesty is very high in this profession.
Okay.
Nurses. Now, okay, so in this poll, there's very high, high, average, low, very low, no opinion.
So let's just guess very high. Let's just guess that one. I'm going to say very high in nurses. Is it going to be... So how many options are there? There's 4 options, 5 options?
6.
6, yeah.
6.
So this is going to be a high number. I'm going to say...
You think that people think that nurses are very honest
and ethical? Yeah. I'm going to
ethical.
say nurses has got to be 42%. Given all those options?
Okay, and then you, Bell?
I was going to say around 38%.
Bell, price it right you. It's 29%.
Really? That low?
Yeah.
Yeah,
high is 50%.
So maybe we should go with high going
You
forward.
gotta, when you get these questions, you got to remember that people don't have full confidence.
Yeah, so let's go with high. So
They have
50%.
confidence, not
All right,
full.
I'll take the drink. I'll take the L on this one.
Okay. Police officers.
Ooh.
I know real quick. So nurses is very high, is 29%, high is 50, average is 17, low is 3, very low is 1. Police officers.
So
Very-
high ethics for police officers. I'm gonna
high or very
say-
high?
We're going high.
We're going high.
Yeah, not very high. Police officers. I'm gonna say, God, there's a lot of thin blue line people out there. I'm gonna say 26%.
I'm going higher. I'm going 33%.
Dan, take a drink. It's 37%.
Damn it!
The very high though is 13%.
I was gonna say that's my own bias coming out. That's all that is.
It's 13% for very high, 32% for average, 11% for low, 7% for very low.
Yeah, no, people still have faith in police officers. They don't have faith in policing.
Oh, here's a good one. Judges.
Ooh, judges.
This one right here will explain a lot about how much people know about how court systems work.
I'm gonna say so. A high degree of ethics for judges. I got a feeling this number is going to be pretty high.
So do I.
I'm gonna say because there's 6 options. A high number is 39%.
Oh, that was my number.
So do you think it'll be higher than lower than that? Just Price is Right.
I don't know, dude. It's 40%.
Okay. Did he get me?
Bell, if you were going for the average, you would have won, but the high is 31%.
Oh, god damn it.
8% for very high, 13% for low, 6% for very low.
All right. Who's next?
Ooh, here's a good one. Labor union leaders.
So union leaders. Ethics in their profession. That one's.
And the caveat to this is our show is very pro-union, but we have a lot to say about shitty union leaders.
100%. That's what makes this one so tough. I'm gonna go with union leaders. High degree of ethics would be. God, a lot of people hate unions.
Can I? I'll go,
Go ahead.
first.
Go first. Go ahead.
21%.
21%. Now, do I want to go higher or lower than that? I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna Price is Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have an actual number. I'll go 20. I'll go 25%.
Bert just chimed in over here and he said he's gonna go 15%.
Ah, shit.
What
What did you say, Dan? 21?
I said 25. Bell said 21.
All right, so it's 17. So you both had to
Bert
drink
wins.
if Dirty Birdie's playing. Yeah, 7% very high, 17% high, 42% average, 22% low, 9% very low.
I knew it was going to be a low number. I thought 25 was a low number.
I knew it was gonna be low. Nobody has faith in the union anymore.
No, they
Nothing.
have faith in the union. They
It's
don't
not the
have
leaders.
faith in the leaders. Ooh,
Well,
here's
that's
a
where
good
it
one.
starts.
Bankers.
Bankers.
It's like someone.
But
It's like someone
is
saying.
bankers, is that like bank tellers or is that like people who run banks?
It just says bankers.
Okay, bankers. Well, nobody trusts the banks, so I'm gonna go. This is gonna be a low number. I'm gonna go. It might even be lower than union leaders. You know what? I'll go with the union leader number. I'll go 17%.
I'm gonna go lower than that. I'm gonna go 11%, maybe 10%.
10%.
Okay, so
Bert says 32%. He's trying to drink.
bankers are 21%.
Yes.
5% very high, 54% average, 15% low, 5% very low. All right. How about members of Congress?
Oh,
I think this one's gonna be higher than we want it to be.
yeah, because it's interesting because you have split Congress right now.
Yeah.
But you also have a lot of Trumpers that don't like.
And this poll was taken November 9th to December 2nd,
So you also have Trumpers
2022.
that don't like quote unquote rhinos. You've Democrats that don't like the AOC wing of the Democratic Party, and you also have the progressives that aren't big fans of the Biden Pelosi wing of the party. So
Well, you also got everyday Americans recognizing that politicians are throwing stupid little things in these everyday bills.
yeah, but
You know,
Corey and I
they
have
don't
been over
trust
this.
Congress.
Guys like us recognize that.
No. I think it's more people than we think. I'm gonna go
So this says a lot about, before you answer, Bell, this answer is going to say a lot about our faith in the American people's ability to understand what's actually going on.
I have no faith in the American people's ability to know what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and say, at a high rate, do we trust them? 24%.
Congress, I'm gonna if Bell beats me on this, I need to retire because this is like my bread and butter.
Why?
This is what I do. I'm gonna go. He went 24%. I gotta go lower. I'm gonna say 18%.
Bert says 23.
Bell, you better have some more faith in the American people because it is 7%.
Wow.
Whoa.
Even lower than I went.
2% have high faith.
Very high, you mean?
Yeah, very high. The average is 28. The low is 37.
Wow.
And the very low is 25.
Wow.
The
I'm a
only
sucker.
one that beats it is telemarketers. They have a 4%. And 1% higher is car salespeople.
Oh my
You know what's
God.
sad though? Journalists only have 20%.
Yeah, well. Honestly, I probably
We
would
need
have
to
gone
step
for
our
low
game
number.
up then.
That's fake news.
This motherfucker got me.
I'm really glad I beat Bell on the one with Congress because
So
Me too, I don't want you
since
to
we were
retire.
talking. So now remember we were just talking about labor unions and how like people don't believe in the union leaders. But what is the overall approval in America for labor unions?
About more.
So hold on, you cut out for a second. What did you say about labor unions?
What is the overall approval of labor unions?
The overall approval of labor unions. Are we doing the whole very high,
It's
average,
just approve or disapprove.
approve or disapprove of labor unions? I gotta believe the number well, it's tough to know because there are a lot of people with union jobs that don't trust unions, or like union level jobs that don't trust unions. I'm gonna say the amount that trust unions is 42%.
I was kind of in the same realm. I don't think very many people trust unions, but I think a lot of people work for them.
I could see it being lower than 42%, but that's my number.
I could also see it being a little bit higher, but I'm going to go ahead and guess 39%.
Boys, it is not 2010. It is at 70%. 71%.
No shit.
It's 1% lower than the highest in 1936. That is 72%.
Bert guessed 70.
No, I got 62.
He still beat the shit out of you guys. So in 2008, which makes sense, it dipped down to 48 because the unions didn't do anything they were supposed to for the.
I'm living in a different goddamn country.
Don't a lot of these polls they give you a little bit more faith, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, because the reason I guess I'm just thinking about it the way that I look at it, which is like I like the concept of a labor union, but I don't always trust the bureaucracy that goes into a labor union. It's a
So
very convoluted thing.
So pre-COVID, it was 64%. It shot up, 7%, which makes sense because we were talking about that. So real quick sidebar. Dark Sage says he has an interesting question for this panel. And then he just said, it seems like today all the presidents are spoken of negatively or attacked by the media. However, I am curious why no one ever says anything bad about President Eisenhower. I saw a stream once where people were bashing all the presidents, but when they came to him, they said decent guy and moved on. Even the media outlets today, I have never seen them say anything negative about him in particular. So the only thing I have to say about Eisenhower, because Eisenhower was after Truman, right?
Correct.
He's the first president that faced an unprecedented issue that the entire world didn't see when he had nuclear weapons and other people did, and it was a new tool, and we didn't see a nuclear apocalypse because when it was Truman, Truman wanted to do a preemptive strike with nuclear weapons against their enemies to make sure they didn't get these weapons. And then he also threatened he also warned the world of the military-industrial complex.
Yes, that was the biggest thing. But the biggest controversy is that he did not warn the world about the CIA. He knew that we were going to be intervening everywhere, but he also knew that Congress being informed of the CIA's activities would trouble America. So he was for the CIA, against the military-industrial complex. I don't understand it. It was a weird thing.
Yeah, and if that's his biggest controversy,
Yeah.
He also kicked the can down the road about segregation, though, didn't he?
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. I can't say.
I'll
read more into it. I'll read more into it, and I can.
But there was
answer back
nothing.
later.
There was nothing like when you think about presidents that came after him. I'm thinking of LBJ. Kind of overtly racist, but also kind of going with the flow when it came to the civil rights movement. It's kind of the way I've always viewed LBJ on that issue. But like,
he followed the polls, not his own.
People don't shit on Eisenhower because he's the one that put us onto the military-industrial complex. What we're seeing every single fucking day.
Yeah, he was the grandfather, so there's going to be a huge narrative overall of like media that's like, well, yeah, he was great because he's making a lot of people money today.
Yeah, and he was also president during the Iran coup, and
you're right, he was.
It brought a lot.
That is giving us so many goddamn headaches today.
Yeah, it really.
When we overthrew the king, we overthrew a democratic Iran and instituted a king. When we're supposed to love democracy,
because they had their oil, they nationalized their oil, and actually,
we didn't like that.
Actually, the company BP, Better Petroleum, is a product
British Petroleum, not Better Petroleum, British Petroleum.
Not anymore, buddy.
Yeah, it's not British anymore.
Oh, at the time though,
buddy. Yeah.
At the
yes,
time
it was. So that is a product of all of that, and I mean, we could get into all that, but I mean.
But that's interesting that he brings that up because there are certain presidents that seem like they're off limits, but they did terrible things. Like another example is FDR.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. There are a lot of people who shit on FDR.
People on the right, like libertarians and stuff.
Yes.
But people on the left look at him like a godsend. But yet he put people in internment camps based on the color of their skin.
No, but I see where this guy's coming from because it's easy to shit on FDR. You know, it's easy to talk about internment camps and all that. No, and I know he's talking about off limits. Let me explain what I mean by off limits.
All right,
I understand what this guy's mean.
There are others that are off limits. I think Lincoln's pretty off limits.
FDR, Kennedy,
Washington's definitely off limits.
No, he's not.
Kennedy's another one.
Sure, he is. He was the first president. I don't know how.
No founding father is off limits. You've heard these people talk about him. They're slave traders, this, that, whatever.
I understand that, but as a president, he's off limits.
Mm-hmm. So
because he was the one that instituted. He didn't do it through legislation, but he's the changing of the guard. He was the first person in like history to ever do that, to give up his power. And people lost, the British and stuff like that, lost their minds over that. They're like, why would he do that? Because they're used to a monarchy.
The reason that people don't talk about Eisenhower is because he was a good old boy, and all the bad things that he did were good for our country back then.
And he was the first president that really kind of spoke truth to power.
Kennedy, and he laid the groundwork.
Kennedy tried to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and that was the president afterwards. So there was a whole stretch there where there was presidents trying to tell the truth. They had to do bad shit to make our country good. And that's why people don't talk about it. That's why people don't talk about the bad things that JFK did. He was a segregationist. And then people credit him with, the movement, the civil rights movement, and but it really wasn't him. That didn't happen till after him.
It would have happened. It would have happened under his watch. I mean, he was a Catholic. He was discriminated against himself.
Not only that, he was a man of the people. He wanted to tell the people what was going on. But I mean, even though he was against it, he would have ended segregation because that's what everybody wanted.
All right, Dark.
So he goes,
Dark
I'm not
gave us his
saying he was the
explanation.
best person ever, but what today? Washington was racist. Trump was this. Obama was that. But I have never heard one negative thing ever said about Eisenhower. I heard someone say once, well, he was the supreme allied commander. Are you really going to bash someone who fought against what he did? He basically gets a pass because he was a decent guy and not a piece of shit.
Well, what that says to me is more that he was just kind of a boring president. You know, because you have to take into consideration the context of the time, right? You know, people shit on Trump because, you know, I guess you could say Bush, Obama, Trump. We're talking about internet era presidents, right? So there's just a million things you can read, a million things you can see, a million different pieces of propaganda pro and against all of these presidents. So yeah, I mean, the context of the time has a little bit to do with it, you know, and there's a lot of revisionist history. I think there's a lot of revisionist history about even some of the more popular presidents when you're talking about either of the Roosevelts, Teddy or FDR. I think there's a lot of revisionist history about Kennedy. I think there's a lot of revisionist history about LBJ. Like somebody like Eisenhower, he was president during a time that was regarded as this sort of overblown today, but this sort of era of American perfection, right? When you talk about the 1950s, it's bullshit because obviously there was still a ridiculous amount of segregation and what have you, but it's viewed as kind of the golden era of the United States of America, at least in the 20th century.
Not only that, you got to remember that back then there was
And
the
ultimately he
communism
kept,
scare.
he was president like during the 50s. So he was the president during a time when all of Europe and even parts of Asia was absolutely decimated. So he helped put in the building blocks to make America the superpower that it is. I'm on the UVA millercenter.org right now, and I'm just going to read the first paragraph, and it says, although there were dangerous moments in the Cold War during the 1950s, people often remember the Eisenhower years as happy days, a time when Americans did not have to worry about depression or war, as they had in the 30s or 40s, or difficult and divisive issues, as they did in the 60s. Instead, Americans spent their time enjoying the benefits of a booming economy. Millions of families got their first televisions and their second car and enjoyed new pastimes like hula hoops and transistor radios. Young people went to drive-in movies or malt shops, often wearing the latest fashions, peg pants for men, poodle skirts for women.
There's just very little.
He just happened to be the president during a lull time.
Yeah, there's just
Like you said,
there's very little to blame him for.
Yeah.
Listen,
You know,
the
you can look back at almost any other president in the 20th century and find something to blame on them.
Listen, the guy was a golden boy. He was in World War I. He did good. He came home. He was an American boy. He wanted to quash communism back when it was prevalent. He, was just
his foreign policy was kind of trash, though.
Yeah, well, nobody gave a shit about that.
So Robert says, I don't think I've heard a whole lot of bad things about Carter either. That's not true. There's a lot of bad things about Carter.
Carter was listen, the most heard.
He's a great guy. That's the thing. Is like he was just a nice.
He's one of the nicest
farmer.
guys in the world.
The problem is
Habitat for Humanity. His wife just got dementia, which is sad.
There was Iran-Contra, right? There was also the biggest issue of inflation, basically until we saw today under Carter. So yeah, he had some issues. I will say this about Carter. I don't think anybody says, there's not a lot of people that say bad things about Carter on a personal level. Everybody looks at Jimmy Carter and they go, just like, what a nice fucking guy. And sometimes that's what people think was his downfall, was that he was too nice of a guy, which was what made him a bad president. So I don't know.
Yeah. So guys, unfortunately, I feel like we're getting a little long in the teeth here.
Dude, I gotta piss.
I have to pee so goddamn bad.
This guy, do some research on Dwight Eisenhower. I mean, he wasn't as
We just turned into a history podcast.
listen, no, yeah. Well, all presidents have done bad shit. That's the bottom line. All presidents have done bad shit, but who has done the least amount of bad shit?
Wow. Okay, that's our homework. Let's figure out which president did the least amount of bad shit.
It's probably gonna be one of the first 10.
Is that fair?
Here's a hint. It was not Woodrow Wilson, and it was not Herbert Hoover.
It wasn't Harry Truman either.
Yeah, it was probably like maybe Jesus.
William McKinley.
No, it's gonna be one of the first couple, but
It'd be like John
I don't-
Adams, dude.
No, who was
Well,
home?
no,
who was-
John
who
Adams.
was who-
no,
hold on,
John
hold on.
Adams.
John Adams was the greatest president. I don't care what anybody.
But John Adams also made it illegal.
John Adams.
John Adams, when he beat Jefferson, he made it like illegal to criticize like the government and the party or something like that. Like he did some weird shit. Like he was,
I never heard of that.
yeah. I was literally
I'm
just
gonna
reading it
tell you
today.
the answer. I'm gonna tell you the answer. You want to know which president did the least bad shit? William Henry Harrison. You know why?
Is he the one that died like 3 months in?
He was president for 31 days.
He's the one that died 31 days in.
Yeah,
you're right.
That's the answer.
All right,
That's the president of the
We're gonna get rid of him. We'll
We'll
get rid of him, and then we gotta still do some homework.
except for William Henry Harrison.
Libsertive Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libsertiveshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibsertivePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libsertive Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libsertivepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
That was a fun episode. We got to do more of these where we just have a good time. Stop making it so serious.
I thought that was fun.
Look for
I was saying
our
this to Bert.
look for our 3-part series. Look for our 3-part series on Kalamazoo. It's coming out. It's fun. I don't know. It's fun. I
Shut up.
don't know if it's fun.
No,
Bert said Taft, and you know what? I got a
He
lot to
might
say
be
about him, but I don't think he is actually. He was able to use the executive branch the proper way. But yeah, we'll have that conversation another time.
We should just have a show on the presidents. That would be fun. Let's
we
do
could. We could do a subset
Oh my
series
God,
of
we
just
could
every
do-
president. That's 45
we could have a
episodes
lot
right
of
there.
fun.
All right. I got to pee. For
I do
Bell the
too.
Body Snatcher, he's been Corey Walsh. This
He's
has been
Dan
Liv
Griffin.
and we are out of here.
Peace.
I didn't even let you say who I am.